Life feels like a storm you never saw coming. Your plans unravel, your inbox overflows, and a constant hum of anxiety becomes your new normal. It is in these moments that the 2,000-year-old wisdom of a Roman emperor can feel startlingly modern. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The obstacle becomes the way. This is the hidden key to reclaiming your story." Stoicism provides a practical toolkit to rebuild your inner world when the outer one feels chaotic. This philosophy will teach you how to distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot, how to master your perceptions, and how to pause before you react. You will discover how to transform obstacles into fuel and find a profound sense of calm that no external event can shatter. How much of your daily stress is actually a story you are telling yourself? The first step to reclaiming your story is to understand what is truly yours to command. This is the core of the Stoic Dichotomy of Control, a simple but profound division of the entire world into two categories. On one side are the things that are within our power, our opinions, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions. On the other side is everything else, our reputation, our property, our health, and the actions of other people. The philosopher Epictetus put it plainly when he wrote, "Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Not within our power are our body, our property, our reputation, our office. Your power lies exclusively in your inner world, the realm of your judgments and choices." The chaos of the outside world only dictates your narrative if you surrender that inner citadel. Think about the last time you felt truly overwhelmed. Chances are that feeling was fueled by a desperate attempt to control things that were never yours to control. You were trying to command the storm instead of learning to sail your own ship. Consider the experience of receiving harsh criticism at work. The email arrives, the words are sharp, and your heart sinks. The event itself, the sending of that feedback, is entirely outside your control. You cannot unsend that message. You cannot control the thoughts or the mood of the person who wrote it, but your internal narrative, your judgment of that event, is your sovereign territory. You can choose to interpret it as a personal attack, spiraling into anxiety and defensiveness, or you can choose to see it as raw data, sifting through it for any useful grain of truth while letting the harsh tone fall away as irrelevant noise. Your response, your next action, whether you reply with grace or with anger, or whether you decide to simply pause and reflect, that is yours to command. Take a moment and bring to mind one current stressor in your own life. Now, mentally draw a line down the center of a page. On one side, list every aspect of that situation that is not within your control. On the other, write down the single most important thing that is, your own judgment and your planned response. This simple act of separation is not just an exercise. It is the foundational act of taking back the pen to your own story. What if the chaos you feel is not in the world, but in how you see it? This is the second powerful Stoic tool for reclaiming your story, the mastery of your own perception. The Stoics argued with unwavering clarity that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about those events. You are not hurt by what happens to you, but by your opinion of what happens. This means the very quality of your life, your peace or your turmoil, is filtered entirely through the lens of your own mind. Marcus Aurelius constantly reinforced this within the pages of his private journal, what we now call his meditations. He wrote, "Take away your opinion, and then there is taken away the complaint. Take away the complaint, and the hurt is gone." He was building what he called an inner citadel, a fortress of calm judgment that no external event could breach. This citadel is not built of stone, but of disciplined thought. It is the practice of pausing between an event and your reaction to question the story you are instantly telling yourself. Consider a traffic jam. The cars are stopped. This is a simple, neutral fact. The stress and frustration do not come from the stationary vehicles themselves. They erupt from the narrative you instantly attach to that fact. This is going to make me late. My boss will be angry. This completely ruins my morning. The event is neutral. Your judgment, your story, is what creates the emotional storm. But what if you changed the story? What if you saw the traffic jam not as a malicious plot to ruin your day, but as an unexpected pocket of time, a chance to listen to a favorite podcast, to sit in silence, or to simply observe the world outside your window without any demand to be elsewhere? The event has not changed. The cars are still stopped, but your experience of it, and therefore your entire emotional state, has been transformed. This is the power you always possess. Think of a recent minor annoyance that sparked a flash of irritation. Perhaps a colleague was short with you, or you spilled coffee on your desk. Recall your initial judgment. What was the story you told yourself in that instant? Now try on a different story. What if your colleague was simply having a difficult day? What if the spilled coffee was just a minor physical event, not a symbol of a ruined day? By changing the judgment, you disarm the event of its power to cause you lasting distress. You reclaim the authority to write your own emotional narrative. Think of your mind as a gatekeeper, not an open door for every passing thought. This is the essence of the Stoic discipline of assent, the crucial practice of withholding your automatic agreement from the initial impressions that flood your awareness. An impression is not a command. It is merely a suggestion, a first draft of reality written by your subconscious. The power to edit that draft, to accept or reject it, is your most fundamental form of agency. The philosopher Epictetus gave his students a powerful instruction. He said, "Do not let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test." That moment of holding on is everything. It is the space between the trigger and your reaction, the breath that allows you to reclaim the narrative from your own automatic impulses. Without this pause, you are not writing your story, you are merely transcribing your reflexes. Imagine your phone buzzes with a text message from a loved one. The words are short and seem cold. Your initial impression, the first draft your mind writes, might be one of hurt or anger. He is ignoring me, she is upset with me. This narrative feels true, and in that feeling, you are tempted to assent to it immediately, to fire back a defensive or equally cold reply. This is where the gatekeeper steps in. Instead of swinging the door open wide for that angry thought to march right in, you pause. You hold the impression at the gate and examine it. Is this the only possible interpretation? Could he simply be busy at work? Might she be tired or distracted? By questioning the initial story, you create the space to choose a different, more rational, and more virtuous narrative. Your response then shifts from a reactive snap to a considered, calm reply, perhaps asking if everything is all right. The external event was the same, but your internal world and your subsequent action was entirely transformed. This week, make a conscious effort to practice this mental pause. The next time you feel that sharp sting of irritation or the hot flush of anxiety, do not act. Just for a moment, become the gatekeeper. Observe the impression without letting it in. Ask it, what do you represent, and is your story really true? In that small, deliberate space, you will find the pen to your story waiting for you to pick it up once more. What if you could not just accept, but love the very things that seem to be going wrong? This is the radical invitation of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is the ultimate act of narrative reclamation, where you stop fighting the plot twists and start seeing them as essential, even beautiful, parts of your story. This is far from passive resignation. It is an active, dynamic choice to embrace every single event, especially the obstacles and setbacks, as raw material for your growth. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously championed this idea, wrote that his formula for human greatness is Amor Fati, the desire for nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. This is not merely putting up with hardship, it is loving it for the strength it forces you to find. This spirit is deeply rooted in Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius constantly practiced this acceptance of nature's will, writing, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He saw every event, good or bad, as simply another log for his inner fire, another piece of fuel to become stronger and brighter. Think of a time you missed out on a major opportunity, perhaps a job you desperately wanted. The rejection felt like a definitive ending, a closed door that shattered your plans. But what if that closed door forced you to look down a different hallway? What if, because you did not get that job, you were available for a different position 6 months later, one that was a far better fit for your skills and happiness? The rejection was not a failure of your narrative. It was a brutal, necessary edit that made the final story infinitely better. Amor Fati is the decision to love that edit, to trust that the author of your life, which is you, is weaving a more complex and interesting tale than you could have outlined on your own. So take a moment and bring to mind one recent difficulty, a frustration that still feels fresh. Now, challenge yourself to look past the immediate inconvenience or pain. Can you identify one potential hidden benefit, one lesson it taught you, or one strength it revealed that you would not have discovered otherwise? In that search for the hidden gift, you are not just reading your story. You are beginning to love it line by unexpected line. How does this problem look from the perspective of the stars? This is the profound question at the heart of the Stoic practice known as the view from above. It is a mental exercise designed to pull you out of the narrow confines of your immediate anxiety and place you in the grand theater of the cosmos. When you feel a problem consuming you, this practice asks you to zoom out, not just to the level of your city or your country, but to the scale of the planet, the solar system, and the vast, silent expanse of the universe. From that vantage point, the meeting you are dreading, the critical comment, the spilled coffee, all of it shrinks into its true proportion. Your personal narrative is no longer the only story being told. It becomes one tiny thread in an immense, ancient, and beautiful tapestry. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this technique, constantly reminding himself of this cosmic perspective in his private writings. He would write, "You can rid yourself of many useless things among those that disturb you, for they lie entirely in your imagination. You will then gain for yourself a wide space by comprehending the whole universe in your mind." He was not trying to diminish his own life, but to contextualize it within a larger, more orderly whole, freeing himself from the tyranny of small concerns. To try this, close your eyes for a moment the next time a worry feels overwhelming. Imagine your consciousness lifting up from your body, rising through the ceiling, seeing your house shrink to a dot, then your town, then your country. Watch the curve of the earth appear, a brilliant blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. See the sun, a single star among hundreds of billions in our galaxy, which is itself just one among countless others. From here, can you even see the source of your anxiety? That urgent problem is now an invisible speck on a speck, part of a silent, spinning dance that has been going on for billions of years. This is not meant to make you feel insignificant, but to make your troubles feel manageable. It returns the pen to your hand, allowing you to write your next line not from a place of frantic panic, but from a place of grounded calm. The Stoics believed that to find peace, you must first willingly visit trouble in your mind. This ancient practice, known as Premeditatio Malorum, or the premeditation of evils, is a deliberate exercise in mental rehearsal. It is the disciplined act of imagining things going wrong, not to feed anxiety, but to disarm it completely. This is the polar opposite of naive optimism, and it is far more powerful. It is the practice of inoculating your mind against the shock of misfortune by familiarizing yourself with it in advance. The Roman philosopher Seneca captured the essence of this when he wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." By contemplating the potential loss of what we hold dear, we strip the event of its element of surprise, and in doing so, we learn to deeply appreciate the fragile beauty of what we have right now. Think of it as a fire drill for the soul. You do not conduct a fire drill because you are certain the building will burn down. You do it so that if the alarm ever sounds, your body and mind know exactly what to do, moving with purpose instead of pure panic. In the same way, Premeditatio Malorum is not about expecting the worst to happen. It is about ensuring that if difficulty arrives, it finds you prepared, resilient, and ready to write the next chapter of your story without collapsing into despair. Consider your career. Instead of anxiously pushing away the thought of a potential job loss, you sit with it calmly for a few moments. You mentally walk through the scenario. What would I do first? I would update my resume. I would reach out to my network. I would assess my finances. I have valuable skills and experience. I have faced challenges before and found a way through. By mentally rehearsing this, you accomplish two profound things. You drain the scenario of its terrifying, unknown quality, reducing it to a series of manageable, practical steps. And simultaneously, you are flooded with a renewed gratitude for the job you currently have, for the steady income and the purpose it provides today. Or imagine a difficult conversation you need to have. Rather than dreading it, you premeditate it. You visualize the other person reacting with anger or dismissal. You rehearse your own calm and measured responses. You affirm your intention to listen and to speak with integrity, regardless of their tone. When you finally have the conversation, you are not hijacked by surprise or emotion. You have already walked this path in your mind, and you can now navigate it in reality with a steady hand. So bring to mind one quiet fear, a potential setback that sometimes whispers to you in your more vulnerable moments. Now, instead of shutting that door, open it. Look at the scenario directly. What is the first practical step you would take if it occurred? What inner strength would you call upon? What support do you already have in your life that would help you through it? In this act of courageous foresight, you are not inviting trouble. You are building an inner fortitude so strong that when life inevitably brings its storms, your narrative remains unshaken and your hand remains firmly on the pen. How much of your inner turmoil comes from wanting things you cannot have? That restless, gnawing feeling is often the engine of our suffering, the very source of the narrative that life is spinning away from us. The Stoics identified this as a fundamental misalignment, and they prescribed a powerful corrective known as the discipline of desire. This is the practice of training your wants to align exclusively with what is virtuous and within your control, thereby cutting the cords that tether your happiness to unpredictable external events. When your deepest desires are fixed on internal qualities like courage, justice, and wisdom, you become unshakable because no one can stop you from cultivating those. The great teacher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, understood this better than anyone. He instructed his students to make their sole desire their own correct choice and their sole aversion their own wrong choice. He said, "You will be unhappy when you set your heart on any other thing than what is up to us." This is the ultimate act of narrative reclamation. You stop wanting the world to be a certain way and start wanting only to be a certain way in the world. Consider the powerful, almost universal desire for social validation, for likes, for praise, for everyone to approve of your choices. This desire places the authorship of your self-worth directly into the hands of others. Their applause becomes your success, their silence becomes your failure. Your story is no longer your own. The Stoic discipline asks you to shift that desire. Instead of wanting to be praised, you focus your want on acting with integrity. Your desire becomes, "I want to do the right thing, regardless of whether anyone notices or applauds." The outcome, the praise or the criticism, is now outside the realm of your concern. It is merely an external echo. Your satisfaction comes from knowing you acted virtuously, a result that is 100% within your power to achieve. This applies just as powerfully to material desires. Wanting a specific promotion, a certain salary, or a particular relationship to work out places your inner peace on a precarious ledge. If you get it, you feel temporary relief, but the anxiety of potentially losing it soon returns. If you do not get it, you feel crushed. The disciplined approach is to transform the desire. Instead of wanting the promotion itself, you focus your want on doing excellent work, on being collaborative and diligent, on developing the skills that make you deserving of that role. You pour your energy into the process, the part you control, and you release your attachment to the specific outcome. The promotion becomes a preferred outcome, but not a requirement for your peace. Your narrative is no longer a desperate plea for a specific result, but a quiet chronicle of consistent, virtuous action. Bring to mind one desire that consistently causes you stress. Is it the desire for a particular person to treat you differently, the desire for a specific financial milestone? Now, gently interrogate that desire. Is its fulfillment entirely within your control? If the answer is no, and it almost always is, then ask the deeper question: what virtuous quality could I cultivate in the pursuit of this? Could I desire patience instead of their immediate change? Could I desire financial wisdom instead of a specific dollar amount? In that subtle but profound shift, you are not giving up. You are growing up. You are taking back the pen and writing a story of inner strength, a story that no external circumstance has the power to edit. Your story is not just what happens to you, but what you do for others. This is the third and final Stoic discipline, the discipline of action, and it completes the framework for a life you truly author. While the first discipline governs your desires and the second your judgments, this one governs your actual deeds in the world. It calls on you to perform your duties, not for personal glory or reward, but with justice and for the common good. When your personal narrative feels fragile, anchoring it to the service of something larger than yourself provides an unshakable sense of purpose and direction. Your life stops being a series of reactions to chaos and becomes a deliberate contribution. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who bore the immense weight of ruling an empire, constantly returned to this theme in his private writings. He reminded himself, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Your actions, no matter how small, are meaningful only when they contribute to the health and harmony of the human community around you. This is not about grand, world-changing gestures. It is about the daily texture of your interactions. It is the choice to help a struggling colleague understand a complex report, even when you are busy yourself. It is the decision to listen patiently to a family member instead of brushing them off. It is the small act of shoveling an elderly neighbor's walkway without being asked. In these moments, you are no longer a passive character buffeted by fate. You become an active agent of good, writing a narrative of integrity and connection with every choice you make. The stability this provides is profound. External circumstances can strip away your wealth, your reputation, or your comfort, but they can never take away the fact that you acted with justice and compassion. That chapter of your story remains yours forever. So today, ask yourself this simple question: what is one small, concrete action I can take that benefits my immediate community or my family? It does not need to be heroic. It could be a thoughtful message, an offer of help, or a chore done without complaint. In that conscious act of contribution, you are not just doing a good deed. You are inscribing a line in your story that says, even when things feel out of control, I choose to be a force for good. What if remembering your death is the key to living fully? This is the startling invitation of Memento Mori, a Stoic practice that has nothing to do with morbidity and everything to do with clarity. It is the gentle, constant reminder of your own impermanence, not to frighten you, but to focus you. It strips away the noise of trivial anxieties and forces you to confront the one story that truly matters, the story you are writing with your limited and precious time. The Stoic philosopher Seneca captured this perfectly when he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested." Memento Mori is the tool that ensures your life is well invested. It is the editor that cuts the meaningless scenes from your narrative. Think about the mental energy you expend on things that will not matter in a week, let alone at the end of your life. The resentment you hold onto after a minor slight, the hours lost to scrolling through social media in a daze, the anxiety over a comment someone might make about you. When viewed through the lens of your own mortality, these concerns lose their power. They are revealed as the distractions they are, keeping you from the central plot of your life, the cultivation of character and the service to others. Imagine you received a sobering diagnosis or had a brush with danger that sharply clarified what was important. Suddenly, petty arguments felt meaningless. The desire to be right evaporated, replaced by a deep need to connect, to love, to create. Memento Mori is the practice of generating that clarity without the crisis. It is a daily meditation that asks, if today were my last, would I be spending this hour on worry? Would I be holding onto this grudge? Would I be delaying that difficult but necessary conversation? The answer almost always points you toward a more courageous and meaningful use of your time. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself this reflective question. If I knew my time was genuinely limited, what one thing would I start doing today that I have been putting off? What one grudge would I finally release? What one expression of love or gratitude would I finally voice? This is not a morbid exercise. It is the ultimate act of narrative reclamation, ensuring that the story you are living is one you will be proud to have read back to you at the very end. Before you react, take one conscious breath. That single, deliberate inhalation is more than just air. It is a declaration of independence from your own automatic reflexes. It creates a tiny but critical gap between the event itself and the story you are about to tell yourself about it. In that quiet space, your freedom lives. Your power to choose your narrative is not found in preventing the storm, but in that moment of stillness before you decide how to sail through it. Epictetus reminded us that we are disturbed not by things, but by our views of them. The event is neutral. It is the opinion you form in the split second after it happens that carries the emotional charge. The Stoic pause is the practice of intercepting that initial, often flawed, opinion before it becomes your reality. Imagine you are in a heated discussion and someone says something that feels like a personal attack. Your body tenses, your heart rate jumps, and the first draft of your story is written in fury. He is trying to humiliate me. I need to fire back right now to defend myself. This is the precise moment for the pause. Instead of letting that narrative dictate your reply, you take that one conscious breath. You feel the air fill your lungs, and in that brief suspension, you create just enough distance to question the first draft. Is that truly his intention? Could he be speaking from a place of his own stress? What would a more measured, more virtuous response look like? The pause allows you to upgrade your story from a reactive defense to a thoughtful, strategic choice. The same technique applies when you receive bad news, like a sudden financial setback. The initial impression screams catastrophe, threatening to pull you into a vortex of anxiety. But the pause gives you a foothold, you breathe, and in that space you remember your own agency. This is an event. My judgment about it is my own. I can choose to see it as a disaster, or I can choose to see it as a difficult but manageable problem that requires a clear-headed solution. Your emotional narrative shifts from one of helpless victim to capable problem solver. Tomorrow, make it a point to practice this stoic pause with just one minor irritation. When you are stuck in a long line or when someone cuts you off in traffic, feel the initial flash of frustration, and then, before it can take the wheel, take that one conscious breath. Use that sliver of space to ask, what story am I about to write, and is it the one I truly want to live? What if 10 minutes each night could rewrite your tomorrow? The ancient Stoics practiced a powerful form of nightly reflection, a deliberate audit of the day that allowed them to process events, assess their judgments, and consciously craft the narrative for the day to come. This was not a simple diary of events, but a rigorous training ground for the mind. Marcus Aurelius himself was not writing a book for publication when he penned his Meditations. He was engaging in this exact practice, working through his own reactions, fears, and aspirations in the quiet of the evening. His private journal became one of history's most profound guides to living, precisely because it was a real-time record of a man reclaiming his story, line by line, each night. The Stoic journaling ritual often revolved around three core questions designed to turn daily life into a classroom. The first question is, what did I do well today? This is not about feeding your ego, but about reinforcing virtuous behavior. Did you manage to pause before snapping in frustration? Did you act with generosity when it was not required? Acknowledging these moments solidifies them, making it more likely you will choose that same strength tomorrow. The second question is, where did I fall short? Be honest but compassionate, like a coach reviewing game footage. Did a first impression, like that sharp email from a colleague, knock you off balance? Did you assent to a story of anger or anxiety without questioning it? Identifying these missteps is not about self-punishment. It is about mapping the leaks in your inner citadel so you can repair them. The third and most important question is, what did I learn? Every event, especially the difficult ones, contains a lesson. What did that moment of impatience teach you about your triggers? How did that unexpected obstacle reveal a hidden capacity for adaptability? This question transforms every single day, no matter how chaotic, into a source of wisdom and growth. Your journaling routine can be beautifully simple. Find a quiet space at the end of your day with just a notebook and a pen. Do not worry about eloquence, focus on honesty. Briefly recount a few key moments from your day, but focus less on what happened and more on your internal response. When my boss criticized my report, my initial judgment was that I was a failure. I assented to that impression and felt defeated for an hour. Upon reflection, the criticism was about the data on page 3, not about my worth. Tomorrow, I will focus on correcting the data without taking it personally. In this act, you are not just recording your day, you are editing it. You are sifting through the raw impressions and choosing which narratives to keep and which to discard, ensuring you begin the next day with a clearer mind and a steadier hand. Tonight, before you sleep, take just 10 minutes. Ask yourself those 3 Stoic questions. What did I do well? What could I improve? What did I learn? In that short, focused reflection, you are doing more than just writing in a notebook. You are picking up the pen and authoring a calmer, more intentional tomorrow. The Stoics argued that the only thing that can ever truly harm you is your own character. Everything else we typically chase after, wealth, status, comfort, even our physical health, they classified as preferred indifference. They are things it is natural to prefer, but they are not inherently good. True good and evil, they insisted, reside only in the quality of our own choices, in our wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. This is the ultimate redefinition of success, one that makes your personal narrative completely fireproof against external events. Your story becomes a chronicle of your character, not your resume. The philosopher Epictetus, who knew profound personal hardship, put it with stunning clarity. He said, "What is good? The knowledge of what is in our power and what is not. What is evil? The false judgment about what is in our power. Good and evil are not out there in the world. They are right here in the judgments you form and the actions you take based on those judgments." When you internalize this, you achieve a profound kind of freedom. Your sense of self-worth is no longer tied to the fickle winds of fortune, but is anchored to the bedrock of your own moral integrity. You can fail at everything the world values and still be a resounding success in the only story that truly matters. Consider 2 different business ventures. In the first, you pour your heart and soul into a startup. You act with complete integrity, treat your team with respect, and make courageous decisions. Yet, a sudden shift in the market causes the venture to fail. From a conventional standpoint, this is a clear failure. You lost money and time, but through the Stoic lens, if you acted with virtue throughout the entire process, your narrative is one of success. You built courage in the face of uncertainty, you practiced justice in your dealings, and you exercised wisdom in your strategies. The outcome was never yours to command, but your character was, and you commanded it well. Now contrast that with a second business. This one becomes wildly profitable, but it was built on cutting corners, misleading clients, and exploiting employees. The world celebrates this as a triumph, yet the person behind it has, with every deceitful act, harmed their own character. They have accumulated wealth but impoverished their soul. Their external narrative is one of success, but their internal story is one of moral failure. Which story would you rather live? This forces a fundamental question about our own definitions. Ask yourself, what does success truly mean to me? Not the definition you have inherited from society or from social media, but the one you feel in your bones. If you strip away the money, the titles, and the applause, what is left? Is it the quiet knowledge that you were fair when you could have been ruthless? That you were brave when you attempted to be cowardly? That you were disciplined when indulgence was easier? When you define success through the lens of virtue, you reclaim the only story that no one can ever take from you. Stoic tranquility is not about feeling nothing. It is about not being enslaved by your feelings. This is the profound meaning of apatheia, a state often misunderstood as cold indifference. In reality, apatheia is the ultimate form of emotional freedom. It is the clear, calm center of the storm, the mental space from which you can observe a powerful emotion without being hijacked by it. This clarity allows you to build a narrative based on reason and purpose, not on the temporary turbulence of a destructive passion. The Stoics were not seeking to become unfeeling robots. They sought to replace chaotic, irrational emotions with a steady, well-ordered soul. Seneca devoted entire letters to this crucial distinction. He explained that it is natural and good to feel a fond affection for friends, a healthy desire for worthwhile goals, or a sober sadness at a true loss. These are what he called good feelings, the rational and measured movements of a healthy mind. The problem arises when these natural feelings swell into destructive passions, what the Stoics termed pathos. These are not mere emotions, they are overwhelming, irrational storms that seize control of your judgment. Seneca described them as opinions that are too vehement, beliefs that have run wild. A healthy caution becomes paralyzing fear. A justified disappointment spirals into bitter resentment. A natural desire morphs into a frantic, all-consuming greed. Consider the difference between healthy grief and a consuming sorrow. When you experience a genuine loss, grief is the natural, human response. It is a wave that washes over you, and with time and reflection it recedes, leaving behind a scar of memory and wisdom. This is a good feeling. A destructive passion, however, is like being caught in a riptide of that same emotion. You are no longer simply feeling sad. You are being drowned by sorrow. You cannot think of anything else. Your judgment is clouded, your actions become irrational, and your entire narrative becomes a single, broken record of pain. The grief has ceased to be something you feel and has become something that possesses you. The same pattern applies to anger. A flash of irritation at an unfairness is a signal, a piece of data. But when that flash ignites into the white-hot fire of rage, it burns down your inner citadel. In that state, you are not writing your story. Rage is writing it for you, and the prose is always reckless and full of regret. Apatheia is the practice of standing at the shore, feeling the power of the wave, but refusing to be swept out to sea. So bring to mind one passion that frequently disrupts your inner peace. It might be a simmering envy when you see a peer's success, or a quick trigger frustration that boils over into sharp words. Simply name it. Now, consider it not as a part of you, but as a weather pattern passing through the sky of your mind. You can feel the wind and see the clouds without believing the entire sky has been permanently replaced by the storm. In that small act of separation, you reclaim the authority to choose your response, and you take back the pen to write from a place of clarity, not chaos. What if everything happening is part of a larger, benevolent order? This is the profound Stoic concept of Providence, a trust that the cosmos is not a chaotic accident, but a rational and interconnected whole. When life feels like a series of random blows, this belief offers a radical shift in perspective, allowing you to see yourself not as a victim of a cruel fate, but as a conscious participant in a meaningful design. You move from feeling targeted by the universe to collaborating with it. The Stoic philosopher Cleans expressed this beautifully in his hymn to Zeus, writing that it is your law that all things of the earth and in the ether should share one common reason. Nothing occurs in isolation. Every event, no matter how painful or confusing, is a thread woven into a vast, intelligent tapestry. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this idea for his own solace, reminding himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems troublesome, because it guides you to the health of the universe. Your personal narrative is not a standalone story, but a single, vital chapter in the story of everything. This is not a call to blind faith, but to a reasoned trust based on observing the ordered patterns of nature itself. Think of a forest after a fire. The devastation appears total, a senseless tragedy. Yet that very fire clears the canopy, allowing sunlight to reach the forest floor. It releases nutrients locked in the old trees and triggers seeds that require intense heat to germinate. The forest that grows back is often more resilient and diverse than the one that burned. The fire was not a malicious act. It was a necessary, if brutal, part of the forest's larger story of renewal. Your life operates on the same principle. That job you lost, the relationship that ended, the plan that fell apart, these can feel like personal failures or random acts of misfortune. But viewed through the lens of Providence, they become the necessary fire. They clear space for new growth you could not have anticipated. They force you to develop strengths that comfort would have never demanded. They redirect your path toward a destination that may be far more suited to who you are becoming. Can you recall a past difficulty that felt overwhelming at the time, but that you now see served a crucial purpose? Perhaps a heartbreak that taught you what you truly value in a partner, or a professional rejection that pushed you to start a business you love. In hindsight, the purpose often becomes clear. The practice of trusting Providence is about learning to extend that hindsight into your present moment, to grant the same trust to your current struggles, believing that their purpose will one day be revealed. This trust does not make the difficulty painless, but it does make it meaningful. It transforms your narrative from one of being lost in a storm to one of navigating by the stars. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the powerful Stoic inversion, a mental alchemy that transforms every barrier into a training ground for your character. Marcus Aurelius, facing endless wars and political intrigue, wrote this directive to himself: the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. And the obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was not denying the reality of the obstacle. He was redefining its purpose in his story. An obstacle is no longer a stop sign. It is a detour that forces you to discover a new route, one that often makes you stronger and more skilled than if you had taken the easy path. This reframe is the ultimate act of narrative reclamation, shifting you from a victim of circumstance to an active participant in your own growth. A financial setback, for instance, can feel like a definitive failure, a story of lack and limitation. But through the lens of Stoic inversion, that same obstacle becomes a unique opportunity. It is a chance to practice the virtue of frugality, to discover creative resourcefulness you never knew you possessed, and to deeply examine what you truly value versus what you merely spend money on. The obstacle did not change. Your bank balance remains the same, but the story you tell about it has been completely rewritten from one of frustration to one of empowerment. Your narrative is no longer about what you have lost, but about the strengths you are gaining. So bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life. It could be a difficult person, a persistent delay, or a personal limitation. Now challenge yourself to perform this mental inversion. Ask yourself, what specific virtue does this situation invite me to practice? Does this frustrating delay offer a drill for my patience? Does this intimidating challenge call for an exercise in courage? Does this confusing problem demand a greater degree of creativity? Name the obstacle, and then name the virtue it can help you build. In that simple, deliberate act, you are not just facing a problem. You are accepting an invitation to become a stronger version of yourself, turning the very thing that stands in your way into the path forward. Your story is not separate from the story of humanity. Every joy, every struggle you experience is part of a vast, shared human fabric. The Stoics called this interconnectedness Sympatheia, the profound understanding that we are all strands in a single web. When you feel your own problems as a unique and isolating burden, you are reading only one sentence from an immense library. Sympatheia invites you to see the whole book, to recognize that the person who frustrates you, the stranger you pass on the street, is living a narrative with the same core elements as your own, a story of seeking peace, avoiding pain, and finding purpose. This perspective actively shrinks the ego that magnifies personal suffering. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this truth, reminding himself in his meditations that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature. He saw our common reason as a unifying force, a shared operating system that allows us to understand one another and work together. When you feel wronged or aggrieved, this philosophy asks you to zoom out from your personal grievance and see the other person not as an antagonist in your story, but as a co-star in a shared human drama. Consider a conflict you are facing, perhaps a disagreement with a coworker over a project. Your initial narrative might cast them as difficult or obstructive, a personal obstacle to your success. Now apply Sympatheia. Make a conscious effort to step into their reality. What pressures might they be under that you cannot see? What fears or insecurities could be driving their position? Perhaps they are anxious about a looming deadline from another manager, or maybe they feel their expertise is being overlooked. This is not about excusing poor behavior, but about understanding its source. When you see the situation from their vantage point, the conflict often transforms from a personal attack into a simple clash of perspectives or circumstances. Your emotional charge dissipates, replaced by a clearer, more strategic empathy. The goal is not necessarily to agree with them, but to understand them, and in that understanding, you reclaim your power from the grip of resentment. So bring to mind someone you are currently finding difficult. It could be a family member, a neighbor, or that colleague. For just a moment, set aside your own story of being wronged. Try to mentally walk through their day. What might their hopes be for this interaction? What hidden burdens could they be carrying that have nothing to do with you? In this act of imaginative empathy, you are not surrendering your narrative. You are enriching it, weaving your single thread back into the stronger, more resilient tapestry of our shared human experience. What if you chose to be uncomfortable so that circumstance could never make you so? This is the heart of the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort, a deliberate training of the spirit that builds an unshakable resilience. The Stoics were not masochists, they were pragmatic architects of inner strength, and they understood that a life devoted only to comfort is a life built on a fragile foundation. To secure your narrative against the inevitable hardships of life, you must periodically prove to yourself that you can handle them. The Roman philosopher Seneca was a man of immense wealth, yet he famously practiced poverty for a few days each month. He would wear his oldest clothes, eat only simple bread, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this not because he had to, but precisely because he did not have to. He wrote, "I want to remind myself that this is the state which I have often called upon others not to fear." His goal was to test his own peace, to demonstrate through direct experience that his happiness was not held hostage by his fine food or his soft mattress. He was inoculating his mind against the fear of loss, ensuring that if fortune ever turned, he would meet it not as a catastrophe, but as a familiar, manageable state. This practice is a form of mental fire drill. You do not wait for the building to be engulfed in flames to learn the exit routes. You practice when it is safe, so that in a real emergency, your actions are calm and automatic. By voluntarily stepping into minor discomfort, you are rehearsing for the day when discomfort is thrust upon you. You are proving to the deepest part of your psyche that you are more robust than your circumstances. The modern applications of this are simple and profound. It could be taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, not to punish yourself, but to feel the initial shock and then discover your capacity to breathe through it and find calm on the other side. It could be skipping a meal and sitting with the sensation of hunger, observing it as a temporary feeling rather than an emergency that must be solved instantly. It could be choosing to sleep on the floor for a single night, to remind your body that comfort is a gift, not a guarantee. In each of these small acts, you are not seeking suffering. You are seeking freedom from the fear of suffering. You are gathering evidence that your core peace is independent of external conditions. This week, choose one small, voluntary discomfort to experiment with. It does not need to be dramatic. Perhaps walk without an umbrella in a light rain, or turn off the heating in your car for a short drive. As you do it, pay close attention to your internal state. Notice the initial resistance, and then notice the moment you realize you are okay. You are still you. Your story remains intact. In that realization, you are collecting a profound kind of inner currency, a wealth of resilience that no market crash or change of fortune can ever devalue. You are what you pay attention to. This is not a metaphor, but a literal description of how your inner world is constructed. Every headline you click, every conversation you linger on, every social media feed you scroll, is actively writing a chapter of your personal narrative. In an age of information overload, the Stoic imperative to guard your attention is not a luxury. It is a survival skill for your peace of mind. The philosopher Epictetus issued a stark warning about this 2,000 years ago, urging vigilance over your own impressions. He wrote, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control." Your attention is the gateway to those choices. What you allow through that gate determines whether your inner citadel is a place of calm reflection or a chamber of echoing anxieties. Think of your mind as a pristine garden. Every piece of information you consume is a seed. You would not deliberately plant weeds that choke your flowers and spoil the soil. Yet, how often do we willingly consume news designed to outrage, or engage in gossip that breeds suspicion, or scroll through curated feeds that foster envy? These are the weeds of the mind, and they grow just as readily as the seeds of virtue. A practical application of this is to conduct a simple audit of your information diet. For the next 24 hours, pay close attention to the sources that capture your focus. Notice how you feel after watching a particular news program or after a 10-minute session on a social media platform. Does that input leave you feeling informed and centered, or agitated and insecure? One of the most powerful Stoic exercises you can undertake is a voluntary media fast. This is not about ignoring the world, but about cleansing your palate. Choose one day to disconnect from the relentless news cycle and the pull of social feeds. Use that reclaimed mental space for a long walk, for reading a book of philosophy, or for a deeper conversation with someone you care about. You will quickly discover which sources were serving your tranquility and which were merely feeding your anxiety. So, bring to mind one consistent source of information you consume, perhaps a daily podcast or a specific website you check habitually. Ask yourself this honest question: does this source contribute to my inner peace and my growth in virtue, or does it primarily stoke my fears and frustrations? Your honest answer will tell you everything you need to know about whether it deserves a place in the carefully curated garden of your mind. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. This Stoic definition reframes courage from a superhuman feat into a daily, accessible choice. It is the quiet decision to act with integrity even when your heart is pounding, to move forward not because the path is safe, but because your purpose is clear. Courage is the virtue that allows you to write a brave narrative when every instinct screams to close the book. Seneca, who faced exile and immense political pressure, wrote extensively on this very point. He argued that the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. He saw danger and adversity as the very training ground where courage is forged, reminding us that fire tests gold and adversity tests brave men. This is not about reckless bravado, but about a steady mind that assesses a threat clearly and then chooses the right action in spite of it. Your power lies in that choice, not in the elimination of risk. Consider the profound courage required to initiate a difficult but honest conversation with someone you care about. You cannot control their reaction. They might become angry, defensive, or hurt. The fear of that outcome can be paralyzing, convincing you that silence is the safer path. But courage judges that the long-term health of the relationship, the integrity of speaking your truth, and the peace of mind that comes from clearing the air are all more important than the temporary discomfort of the confrontation. By choosing to act, you reclaim the narrative from the fear of a negative outcome and author a story of honesty and respect. The same principle applies to starting a new venture, whether a business, a creative project, or a major life change. The uncertainty is immense. The possibility of failure is real and frightening. Courage does not magically erase those facts. Instead, it looks directly at them and decides that the potential for growth, the fulfillment of pursuing a passion, or the simple dignity of trying is worth more than the safety of inaction. Your narrative transforms from one of "what if I fail" to one of "I had the courage to try." So now, bring to mind one specific area of your own life where you feel a sense of hesitation or stagnation. Where is fear currently dictating the terms of your story? Is it a conversation you are avoiding, a creative project you have not started, or a boundary you have failed to set? Identify that one space, then ask yourself the Stoic question, what is more important here than my fear? The answer to that question is the next sentence waiting to be written in your life. A man who conquers himself is greater than one who conquers a city. This ancient truth points directly to the Stoic virtue of temperance, the quiet power of self-control that keeps your narrative from being seized by runaway desires or irrational fears. Temperance is not about deprivation. It is the profound inner stability that comes from mastering your impulses, ensuring you are guided by reason, not by the next craving or the next wave of anxiety. When your wants and your fears are held in check, the chaos of the outside world loses its power to dictate your inner state. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus put it plainly when he said that self-control is the foundation of every virtue. Without this foundation, your courage can become recklessness, your justice can turn to rigid judgment, and your wisdom can be clouded by bias. Temperance is the steady hand that allows all other virtues to flourish. It is the governor on the engine of your desires, preventing you from redlining into exhaustion or burnout. Think about the simple, daily tug of war with your phone. The device buzzes, and an almost magnetic pull draws your hand to check the notification. That desire for a quick hit of novelty or social validation is powerful. Without temperance, you assent to that impulse instantly. Your attention is hijacked, your focus fragments, and your narrative for that hour becomes one of distraction and reactivity. But with temperance, you notice the pull, you pause, you recognize the desire as a suggestion, not a command. You can then choose to leave the phone face down, reclaiming your attention and authoring a narrative of deliberate focus instead. This same principle applies to our relationship with food, with shopping, or with any form of consumption. The desire for that second serving of dessert, or the urge to make an impulsive online purchase, feels compelling in the moment. It promises a fleeting satisfaction. Temperance asks you to look past that immediate promise and weigh it against the longer story you are trying to write. Does this indulgence support my health and my financial goals, or does it undermine them? By choosing moderation, you are not saying no to pleasure. You are saying yes to a larger, more meaningful story of well-being and self-command. So this week, choose one single area of excess in your own life. It might be the time you spend scrolling, the money you spend on casual purchases, or even the amount of coffee you drink. For just one day, practice conscious moderation in that area. Notice the initial urge, feel its intensity, and then make a deliberate choice to hold back just a little. In that small, conscious act of restraint, you are not just denying a desire, you are writing a powerful new line in your story, one that says you are the author, not your appetites. Your life story is written in the good you do for others. This is the heart of the Stoic virtue of justice, the final pillar that grounds your personal narrative in contribution and connection. While wisdom guides your judgment, courage enables your action, and temperance provides your self-command, justice directs all of it outward, transforming your inner strength into a force for fairness and kindness in the world. Acting justly is the ultimate antidote to the feeling that your life is a solitary, meaningless struggle. It weaves your individual thread back into the larger human tapestry, providing a profound sense of purpose that no external chaos can erase. Marcus Aurelius, who carried the immense burden of imperial power, constantly returned to this duty as his anchor. In his private writings, he instructed himself, "In the morning, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present: I am rising to do the work of a human being." That work, in its essence, is to act justly in every single interaction. This is not about grand legal pronouncements. It is about the micro-interactions that form the fabric of your day. Justice is giving the harried cashier your patience instead of your impatience. It is listening to a colleague with your full attention, setting aside your phone and your own mental to-do list, making them feel truly heard. It is the choice to speak fairly about someone who is not in the room, refusing to participate in gossip that tarnishes their name. It is mustering the quiet courage to gently correct a false statement, even when it is easier to stay silent. Each of these small acts is a sentence written in the story of your character, a story that says you are a person who contributes to the dignity and order of the world around you. Think of one relationship in your own life that feels strained or distant. Where could you practice a little more fairness or kindness this week? Perhaps it is a family member you have taken for granted, and justice means actively expressing your appreciation. Maybe it is a coworker you often disagree with, and justice means seeking to understand their perspective before defending your own. In that conscious choice to act justly, you are not just mending a connection. You are reclaiming your narrative from isolation and writing yourself back into the human family. Wisdom is the mother of all Stoic virtues. Without it, courage can become recklessness, justice can turn to rigid judgment, and temperance can devolve into mere austerity. This foundational virtue is not about accumulating facts, but about cultivating a practical, discerning eye for what truly holds value. The Stoics defined wisdom as the knowledge of what is good, what is bad, and what is neither. It is the guiding light that allows you to navigate any situation and write a narrative grounded in reality, not in fleeting appearances or societal noise. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, described the wise person as one who lives in accordance with reason harmoniously. This reason is the ability to see things as they are, not as our fears or our desires paint them to be. Wisdom is what allows you to correctly use the other virtues, to know when to be courageous and when to be patient, to understand what true justice requires in a complex situation. It is the master skill that directs all your other strengths. Think of a significant career setback, like being passed over for a promotion you worked tirelessly for. Your initial, raw impression screams that this is a catastrophe, a definitive mark of failure. This is where wisdom intervenes. It acts as the calm, inner editor questioning that first draft. It reminds you that your title, your salary, and your position in a corporate hierarchy are, in the Stoic framework, preferred indifference. They have no inherent power to make you good or evil. They are neither good nor bad in themselves. Your character, however, is the only true good. Your response to this setback is where your virtue, or your lack of it, is revealed. Wisdom allows you to see the event for what it is, an external circumstance that is indifferent to your core worth. It then guides you to ask the only questions that matter. Did I act with integrity throughout the process? Can I learn anything from this outcome to grow? How can I choose a virtuous response now, one of resilience and diligent effort, rather than one of bitterness and blame? Your narrative is no longer about a single failed outcome, but about the enduring strength of your character in the face of that outcome. So bring to mind one current worry that feels heavy and significant. Now apply the Stoic filter of wisdom directly to it. Ask yourself, is this situation inherently good, inherently bad, or is it indifferent? Does it have the power to damage my character, or is it merely an external event? And if it is indifferent, what would a wise, rational response look like? In that moment of clear discernment, you are not just solving a problem, you are reclaiming the authority to define what a problem even is. Stop fighting reality. Your power is here in the now. Every moment you spend resisting what is already happening is a moment you surrender your own agency. The feeling of life spiraling out of control is not born from the chaos itself, but from your internal struggle against it. Acceptance is not passive surrender. It is the critical first step of planting your feet firmly on the ground so you can finally begin to move. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a razor-sharp instruction for this very practice. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well." This is the mental pivot that changes everything. You are not being asked to like the rain, but to stop arguing with the fact that it is falling. The moment you cease that argument, your energy is freed. It is no longer wasted on a battle you cannot win against the present moment, and it becomes available for the one thing you can always do, which is to choose your response. Think of a day when your outdoor plans are washed out by a sudden downpour. Resisting this reality looks like complaining incessantly, staring miserably out the window, and letting your entire mood be ruined by the weather you cannot change. This resistance is what creates the feeling of being powerless. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, looks entirely different. You look at the rain, you acknowledge it is here, and you release the mental demand for it to be otherwise. In that release, a space opens up. Now you can ask a new question. Given that it is raining, what can I do? Perhaps you light a candle, pick up a book you have been meaning to read, or use the time to finally organize that closet. The circumstance has not changed, but your relationship to it has been utterly transformed from one of frustration to one of opportunity. This week, make it a practice to find one small, unchangeable circumstance in your day. It might be a long line at the grocery store, an unexpected traffic delay, or a cancelled meeting. When you encounter it, pause and consciously choose to accept it fully, just as it is. Do not just endure it, welcome it. See what happens to your inner state when you stop fighting the reality of the line and simply stand in it, present and aware. In that simple act of alignment with what is, you reclaim the narrative from circumstance and place it back where it belongs, in your own hands. How you start your day sets the tone for your story. The first moments after you wake are a blank page, and a Stoic morning ritual ensures you pick up the pen with intention before the world starts writing for you. Both Seneca and Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Seneca wrote that we should ask ourselves each morning, what tough task awaits me? He was not inviting dread, but building a readiness for whatever the day might bring. Marcus Aurelius filled his own private journal with morning meditations, reminding himself of his purpose before he even stepped out of bed. This practice is not about adding more tasks to your morning. It is about changing the quality of your attention from the very start. A simple 5-minute routine can anchor your entire day in resilience. Begin by sitting quietly for just 1 minute, remembering the fragility of life. This is not a morbid exercise. It is a powerful reminder that this day is a gift, not a guarantee, focusing your mind on what truly matters before the trivial distractions begin to swarm. Next, spend 2 minutes visualizing the specific challenges you are likely to face. Perhaps you have a difficult conversation scheduled or a complex project deadline. Do not just fear it, meet it in your mind first. See yourself navigating it with calm and virtue, responding with patience if a colleague is short with you, or with courage if you receive bad news. This mental rehearsal strips the future of its power to surprise and overwhelm you. Then, for the final 2 minutes, affirm your commitment to a key virtue you wish to embody today. It might be a single word like justice or temperance. Hold that intention in your mind. Decide that today your success will be measured by your integrity, not your inbox. This entire process is a quiet declaration that your inner narrative comes first. This week, design your own version of this Stoic morning ritual. It does not need to be long or complex. The goal is consistency, not perfection. For the next 7 days, before you check your phone or dive into the day's demands, dedicate just 5 minutes to this practice of intentional beginning. Notice what changes in the quality of your days when you consciously author the first page each morning. What is it to live a good life? For the Stoic, the answer is simple yet profound. It is to live according to your true nature. The ancient sources tell us that Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, defined the goal of life as living in agreement with nature. This phrase might sound abstract, but it points to a very practical reality. Your nature as a human being is twofold. You are a rational creature, endowed with the capacity for clear thought and wise judgment. And you are a social creature designed for cooperation and community. To live in accordance with nature, then, means to use your reason for the common good, to play your unique part in the human community with excellence and integrity. It is about discovering the role you were born to play and performing it to the best of your ability, not for applause, but because it is the right thing to do. This is not a call to a solitary, self-centered existence. It is an invitation to see your life as an essential thread in a vast, interconnected tapestry. Your personal narrative finds its deepest meaning when it contributes to a story larger than yourself. Think of a forest. An oak tree fulfills its nature by growing strong, providing acorns and offering shade. A bee fulfills its nature by pollinating flowers and making honey. Each has a distinct role, and the health of the entire ecosystem depends on each one performing its function well. You are no different. You possess a unique combination of talents, experiences, and circumstances. Your role is to identify those gifts and apply them in service to your immediate world. Perhaps your talent is for bringing people together, for creating harmony in a divided room. Maybe it is a knack for explaining complex ideas with patience, or a quiet strength that provides a calm harbor for those in distress. Your role is not necessarily your job title. It is the essential quality you bring to every interaction, the unique note you play in the symphony of your family, your workplace, and your community. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself this: what is my specific role right now, not in some abstract future sense, but today? What is the part I am meant to play in my family with the particular strengths I have? How can I play my role at work with more excellence and dedication, regardless of the title on my door? And what small, consistent contribution can I make to my neighborhood or my circle of friends? In answering these questions, you are not just finding your place. You are actively writing a life of purpose, a narrative that is uniquely and authentically yours, aligned with the deepest currents of your own human nature. Your freedom depends on the single choice of what you call your own. This is the ultimate synthesis of Stoic wisdom, the thread that ties the dichotomy of control, the mastery of perception, and the cultivation of virtue into one unbreakable cord. Reclaiming your narrative is not a single event, but the daily, deliberate practice of returning to these principles. It is remembering that your power lies not in the events of the day, but in your judgments of them. It is pausing to question the first impression and choosing a more virtuous story. It is acting with courage, justice, and temperance, not because the world is fair, but because that is how you build a character that is immune to the world's unfairness. The philosopher Epictetus, who knew the depths of external limitation, arrived at the simplest and most profound definition of a life well lived. He said, "He is free who lives as he wishes, who cannot be compelled, nor hindered, nor forced, whose choices cannot be blocked, whose desires attain their end, whose aversions do not fall into what they would avoid." This is the freedom Stoicism offers, a freedom that is entirely internal and therefore utterly unassailable. Your story, then, is never truly about what happens to you. It is the private, continuous record of how you use your freedom. It is written each time you choose reason over reaction, purpose over panic, and contribution over complaint. No external event, no chaotic circumstance, no opinion of another can ever write a single sentence in that book without your conscious consent. The pen has been in your hand all along. If this journey into Stoic thought has resonated with you, consider subscribing for more practical wisdom to help you live a calmer, more intentional life. We would also love to hear from you in the comments below. What is one Stoic practice you have started to apply, and how is it changing the story you tell yourself?